Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Ashley Bornanson, and you are watching the Great Barbie Debate. Let's break it down.
Show me life, show me love.
Ooh, that's right. Barbie just came out 2 days ago, and man, it is blowing up the box office, but also blowing up the internet with how much phenomenon, how many opinions, very strong opinions are surrounding this film. I've seen a number of reviews here online, but I thought we need to give you a different perspective. We're going to have two different females on today's video from two totally different perspectives, and we're going to have the Great Barbie Debate. Before we get started into all the Barbie deliciousness debate, and you know it's about to get controversial in here, you know it, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Help push this video out to more cinema lovers. All right, guys, I am so excited because I have one of my favorite people in the entire world. I respect her insanely intelligent mind. We both worked in Hollywood for over 10 years together. She's not only one of my very dearest best friends in the entire world, but she's a queen when it comes to fashion, cinema, makeup, styling, owning her own business, Lost Hollywood Vintage. You know who this is? Well, if you don't already, you're going to want to follow her. This is Aubrey Cook. Thank you so much for being on here, Aubrey.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm on the Today Show with you.
You are even better. You're on YouTube. This is going to be so much fun because we have insanely different views on Barbie.
Yes, but we both respect each other. So
that's the most important part. We're going to come from different perspectives, and we're going to have a really healthy debate and conversation. Guys, don't come for us because we are two women who support each other, and we're going to have varying opinions, and you're going to have varying opinions too. And let me know all those opinions in the comments below. We are going to have the Great Barbie Debate. Aubrey, I love that you have your coffee on you. So do I. I mean, we're going to need a lot of caffeine to get through this because this movie already has so much buzz. I mean, it already has us laughing about how much buzz it already has because people have such strong emotions about this movie. And I find that really, really interesting. Some people either find it a movie about empowerment. Some people find it either a major attack. So here's what we're going to do today, guys. Lay out the ground rules. We are going to go over two sides of the Great Barbie Debate. And we've got my one and only movie expert with me. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to first talk about our relationship to Barbie, because I think a lot of this stems from what is your own personal relationship to Barbie, how you grew up viewing Barbie. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about our experience in cinema. We're going to then go over a few different plot points, just kind of an overall plot review. Spoiler alert, there are going to be some spoilers. And then we're going to just give our overall thoughts and feelings. So obviously, Aubrey and I are representing two sides of the coin. I'm in pink. You can tell I'm pro Barbie. Aubrey, anti-Barbie. But let's talk about why we're here in the first. Let's talk about why we're here in the first place. What's up? I'm Ashley Bornanson. I'm a voice actress, TV reporter, and entrepreneur. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up so you can get out this great debate to more people. Aubrey, why I brought you on today is because you are an incredible makeup artist, also one of my very dear best friends in Los Angeles. You've worked in the movie and TV industry for what, like 15 years. You obviously are so stunning and gorgeous. I mean, you could have played Barbie as well, although Margot Robbie, I thought, did a wonderful job. And if anyone knows Aubrey, you will know her modeling background. I mean, she literally is like a pinup Barbie. Like, she is gorgeous
oh my
and
gosh,
amazing.
stop.
But even more so than that, Barbie, I already called you Barbie. Aubrey loves when I give her lots of compliments. Even more so than that, we were both in a cinema critic society. We called it the Cinema Society in Los Angeles with one of our guy friends, Chet Smathers. And it was really fun because we would break down cinema every week. Aubrey, you also have this incredible storefront in Joplin, Missouri, but also throughout the world on your Instagram called Lost Hollywood. It's so amazing, guys. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I include that in the links below as well. And you do Movie Mondays. So, yes. Aubrey, thank you so much for joining me bright and early.
I know. I'm surprised I woke up, to be honest.
Yeah, you were like, do I have to put on, like, are you going to be all Barbie? I'm like, yes, And yes, it is early
I'll
Sunday
be
morning.
I'll be rolled out of bed Barbie, but not in the cute way. But I decided to look like a little, not
No,
like I just woke up from the dead.
you look amazing. You literally look amazing. Aubrey, can you start us off and kind of fill us in on your own personal relationship with Barbie?
Yes. So I do love Barbie. Aside from the movie, I love Barbie. I have, one of those shoe things that hang in your closet where you could put your shoes in.
Mm.
My mom had got me one of those as a kid to put my Barbies in it to organize them because I had so many Barbies. And I just am so thankful to my parents now because I'm like, toys are not cheap. So I'm like, thanks, Mom, for buying me all the hot new Barbies. um, I loved playing with Barbies. I had all different kinds of Barbies. I had all different races of Barbies. Like, I just wanted to play with them. I wanted to dress them up. That was my main thing because I love fashion. It was
Mm.
dressing them up, and I would kind of use my inspiration from Barbie and her outfits and her occupations to sketch out my own clothing ideas. I even had two life-size Barbies. I don't know if anyone remembers those, but they were,
Yes. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
so I had two. One
Wow.
was Rapunzel Barbie, and the other one was Wedding Doll Barbie. And yeah, as you can see, I have like a Barbie Pez dispenser.
Yes, so cute.
I've got my villain edition Cruella DeVille.
So you were
I
kind of like you grew up being a Barbie fan.
Yeah, I loved Barbie. I loved playing with them. I mean, I remember making, because I didn't have a Barbie home, but I would take cardboard boxes and make like a little community under the table with that. And I would play with it for weeks. And it was just my way of getting to play with dolls, but
Mm.
also envision any type of life I wanted through Barbie. And
Mm.
that freedom that came with the idea of Barbie. So the whole concept of Barbie, I agree with, is a way to get women and young girls to dream big and imagine any type of life they could. And for me, it was, sky's the limit. So
That is really cool to hear because I had a completely different interpretation of Barbie growing up. So I love that we get to hear just your vision on Barbie. And that's what Margot Robbie actually talks about in a lot of her interviews. She goes, everyone has such like a visceral reaction to the protagonist before they even watch the movie. That's why it's going to be really interesting. And I think they knew that they were making something that would stir a great Barbie debate. So, growing up, from my perspective, I also grew up with Barbies. My mom was a legit hardcore Barbie collector. And I thought this was like the weirdest thing. Like, we had like these glass displays in our sitting room. Like, that sounds so like bougie, but like two glass displays of like Barbies. And then our basement, we had like a storage room of Barbies. I also played with them. So, I really did like Barbies. But I'm not gonna lie, I always did feel a little like underrepresented. Like and
even as a kid,
I say that knowing I'm a white female, like, but I'm 5'2", kind of athletic, curvy body. Like, yes, even as a kid, I think those
it's so
thoughts stem
fascinating.
really young. I think those thoughts stem really young. So I can't imagine like when those first stereotypical Barbies came out, other women of different races and all those, other forms of being felt as well until they started being more represented later on. So I felt that at a very young age. I thought her body was like, I was like, why is her body like
See, I will say, it's funny you bring that up. I will say, I, as a little girl, because I'm like a toothpick,
yeah.
I was like, man, I want, I want boobs like Barbie so I can fill out my shirts when I'm older.
Yeah, right? Like it's wild to hear the effects that dolls have on women, but you kind of brought up the point that Mattel kind of says in the movie, which was at least in the movie their original intent. Barbie can be anything, therefore women can be anything, and that's how you felt as well. For me, and then we'll get into the movie. I really resonated more with American Girl dolls. I don't know if it's because they were like also like physically bigger, so it was more fun for me to dress them up.
Mhm.
But I was 8, so I played with Barbies probably until I was 8, and then I switched to American Girl dolls, and I I could represent the American Girl brand. That's how much I like adore American Girl dolls.
Yeah.
Now I gave Alan's niece Molly, and it was a
Aw.
huge deal. And then I also got a Samantha doll. So we actually went to the American Girl doll store as like a big party, just like
Aw.
a few of us girls, and took her to the American Girl store, which is ironic because now Mattel also owns American Girl doll. So that's
Yep.
kind of our backstory. And I think that that's really important because a big kind of overall point I do want to mention is that people have really complicated relationships with Barbie. Some believe that it's like a narrow, impossible standard of beauty, and others, like Aubrey, you grew up feeling like she was aspirational, eventually evolving to be any type of career woman in the world, and kind of being able to do anything, which leads us to the Barbie movie. So, Aubrey, how did you feel going into the Barbie movie? What were your expectations?
So to be completely honest, and I've said this to everybody, I didn't have any expectations. To be honest, I remember when I first saw like a snippet that they were even creating a Barbie movie, I kind of was like, oh. And I think I reacted that way because, just in general with Hollywood now, everything is a franchise, or it's not really original anymore. So I've kind of got burnt out of that. But then as the hype started to develop, I still wasn't like, I have to see this movie like everyone else was, which kind of shocked me because of my background with Barbie. But I was curious and I thought, this will be fun. And then I kind of made it a thing. I had some girlfriends over. We all dressed up as a version of Barbie and we went to the movie theater together. So that was a lot of fun, seeing everyone's creativity come out, which also, is, what I used to do with Barbie. So I had zero expectations going into it, which kind of, we can get more into this later. For me, is a telltale that if I had low expectations or no expectations and I'm still disappointed, that means
wow,
to me, it really wasn't that good.
Wow. And the way Aubrey views movies, guys, and reviews movies, I respect so much. So I can't wait to kind of break this down. So here's what I want to do. I want to kind of give that overall plot. So basically, we get to step inside Barbie's world. And by the way, I kind of had zero expectations as well. It just looked like a fun kind of, not even a rom-com, just like a fun, kitschy girl movie that everyone could dress up. And it has become a phenomenon. But even more so, it's become a phenomenon in a way that it's become I think a mental phenomenon of talking about these big issues, and a culture phenomenon even more so. So we step into Barbie's land, and this is where a lot of people, you're going to feel all those feelings. And especially I think like people of our age, we're in the millennial generation. So we grew up playing Barbies. We have a lot of nostalgia. It starts with, talking about the beginning of time when girls had dolls and they started off as babies and eventually like Barbie came around. And the big thing about Barbie was that the only thing you could do with babies was be a mother. And the big thing that you could do with Barbie is be anything, right? And so we enter Barbie's dreamland and it's all focused on Barbie. Like Barbies are all called Barbies. They have their own houses. They are the highest jobs. They're in the Supreme Court. They're basically every position of power. And Ken's kind of plays second fiddle to the Barbies. And we could dive more into that. First of all, initial impressions on just setting the tone of what you felt like we're getting into. Because they start off very, very strong, getting into Barbie Dreamland. And who Barbie is, and then her relationship with Ken from the get-go.
There's so much I could say right now. So do you have like more specific questions so I don't just ramble on?
Yeah. So I'll give my first impression. I actually loved that they said, I work hard so I could be anything. I work hard so I deserve it. And just everything about Barbie to me from the get-go, she seems so freaking confident. Like they're making comments saying, Barbie, you don't have any insecurities. That's not you. And I just loved that because I was like, wow, like Barbie is so beyond confident and she doesn't even know why she wouldn't be confident. She doesn't even have anything in her that would make her believe that she couldn't get certain things. Like that barrier of entry did not exist in Barbie Land. But I will say I was a little caught off guard immediately by her relationship with Ken, because I never played with Ken as if he was like a second rate Barbie. I was just like, oh, Ken is like Barbie's friend or Barbie's boyfriend. Like it was always
Yeah.
like Barbie's boyfriend, and we're going to go on dates with Ken. So when Ken's purpose in the Barbie land was to just be there to please the Barbie, I actually was a little like, oh, that's different, because that's not how I played with Ken. Now, mind you, was my focus mostly on the Barbies and all their drama? Yes.
Mhm.
My brother played with GI Joes, so he didn't really play with Kens, but I never looked at Ken as a second class citizen. But again, I think he's representing a bigger conversation. So what was your view on that?
So yeah, with the whole Ken situation, I was really excited to see that because I just thought it'd be funny. I knew they were gonna make Ken kind of aloof, kind of like a knucklehead, and like that's fine. Like it's a movie. It's about dolls and Ken and Barbie. And same, I never had a Ken growing up. I don't know why. I had one Barbie. I think he was like a knockoff Ken or something, and I would use him as Ken. But even as a little girl, like there were times where I was like, oh, they're boyfriend girlfriend. But then there are times it was just like he's another doll to have around with Barbie to hang out with, so she has a friend. And um so I didn't mind that whole Ken and Barbie relationship because it was funny. It was goofy.
Yeah.
Obviously Ryan Gosling is hilarious, so he really
Amazing.
like everyone loves him. So he was able to play that character well, and you still loved him, but you still were like, oh my gosh, like this is how they portrayed Ken, but it was like comical. It wasn't until probably midway through the movie and near the end where, and then even this morning where I kind of started thinking more about it, where I was like, I don't really like how they took it so far to make him almost like this airhead who had no thought, had no choice of his own. And even at the end of the movie, he still was being dictated by Barbie. He didn't come into his own until Barbie said something. And it wasn't even a bad thing, but it was like that's how they portrayed Ken throughout the whole movie. And it was almost the whole concept of, again, Ken's just there. He's just there to exist. And I think the more I think about it now, I'm like, was that deliberate for them to push that onto the audience? Like the whole female empowerment, which I'm all about female empowerment. I mean, I'm friends with you. Like we're all about it, but I'm also
friends
about
with you. Isn't that enough?
I'm all about female empowerment and supporting women and encouraging women and not needing a man to exist in life. But I've also realized, like, as human beings, like we need each other. And I think sometimes we need men. And like, even realistically, like I have a great relationship with my dad and my brother. And like, there's things that I can't do that they can do. And so it was kind of that whole concept of, we're going to make men look stupid and pathetic. And even like the end scene with the mom and the daughter and her husband, who they didn't have throughout the whole movie. They just kind of threw in a snippet of him, and they portrayed him as this like dumb airhead. They were like, oh dad, you don't know what you're talking about, which to me was like, that didn't even need to be in there. But I was kind of like, okay, they're totally, Ken is just there.
Yeah. So my take on that is, and I appreciate you saying that, there have been also just so many men doing reviews on this movie. So it's really exciting to see two women doing reviews. Okay. So it's interesting because a lot of men are taking this movie as a man bashing movie, making Ken look dumb and everything. And I think so many people are missing the point, which is that this whole thing is a satire, and it's how women enter the world literally feeling less than men. Now, do I agree with what you said by the end of the movie? 1000%. I think that's the whole point. So my point on this is, I think people are stopping at that conversation. They're saying Barbie just bashes Ken and that's it. It's like,
Mhm.
actually, we as women entered the world with a lot of societal norms favoring men. I feel like at this point, can we all just accept that? Like, why is this still a debate? Women and men did not enter the world equally, to me, from my perspective
No, but I
as a
think that's
woman.
something that as long as there's humans on the planet, I guess for me, I've come to exist. Like, it's never going to be 1,000% equal because
Yeah,
nothing's ever going to be perfect here.
of course.
So I agree with you too. Like, I'm totally fine with them making a movie where they're kind of making guys look stupid or whatnot. Like, it's funny, you know.
Well, and I
It's
don't think, again, I think they pushed it far to get the point across, right? So Barbie finally was in the position that men throughout history have held. They've held the highest positions. They've held the most power. They've held women have for a very long time felt like and been kind of an accessory to men. And go ahead and hate on me in the comments for saying that. But as a woman, coming from a woman's perspective, most of our moms were moms. They weren't necessarily career moms. And I think that's just like factual, you know? And it was throughout history that eventually, right, women got the right to vote. Like, we had to keep gaining that power, but still to this day, women do not make the same as men, and women are not treated the same as men. So yeah, did they push it a little in that? Yes. Did they flip the script though on purpose? Like, I feel like people aren't getting that. Like, we have felt this way. So we are now getting to flip the script. So I think
I think
that
I'm to the point where I'm like, this is not new news. This is something that has been screamed about, especially, you know, in the recent years until we're blue in the face. And like, yeah, women died to get the right to vote. Like, women were sacrificing their lives. So yeah, I am totally aware of like women have fought hard to get to where they're at. But now I feel like we're to a point where it's almost taboo. It's like, we know this. We know that we've kind of been suppressed by men, but now I feel like we are getting to an age where we are leveling up. And a part of that is because we are starting to put our foot down. We are starting to speak up and things are changing. So it's just interesting that like, to me, I guess it's kind of like nothing new. I'm like, really, do we still have to keep pushing this agenda like so drastically to the point where it can't just be a movie about like Ken's a goofball? We can acknowledge that. It like then has to turn into something more serious about women are so suppressed by men. And it's like, yeah, women still are in areas and they have been and they always will be, but we're rising up. And I think for me, it just kind of made it not fun anymore. It made it not about this fun, goofy relationship with Ken that, yeah, it has always been Barbie and Barbie's world, and Ken's there, and he's the love sick guy who's chasing around. Like, even the scene in the beginning where they were talking about being boyfriend girlfriend, and she was like, "No, you can go home now." Like, I laughed really hard, and in my head, I was like, "Man, I wish I had that confidence on dates with guys that I didn't want to be on." Where I was like, "No, I don't want to go and get another drink with you." So that was funny, and that I felt was like good for her. Like, that is encouraging. But then it just kept going and going and going, and to me, it was like, you're beating a dead horse at this point.
It's interesting because to see that relationship, my friend Amy, when I posted on Instagram, how did this make you feel? How'd you think about it? She goes, if it made you feel uncomfortable, that was the point. And I will say, I think in the beginning, Barbie wasn't doing it all right, right? Like it doesn't feel comfortable to see anyone, whether it's a man or a woman, put someone down and say, no, bye, like have no disregard for their feelings.
Yeah.
And yes, it's hilarious and I love it. And I'm like, yes, girl, yes. But it's still, you're like, okay, this is kind of mean. And I think there was a part of Ken that I felt like was more in touch with his feelings and emotions than Barbie at times. Like the fact that Ken wanted a relationship with Barbie, the fact that he goes, I wanted this to be our house. It doesn't have to be Ken's house or Barbie's house. I want this to be our house. And that's what I think people are missing in a lot of their reviews. They're not talking about the full circle. For me, it did come full circle that it's not about being man hating and women, rising or vice versa. It's not about that. And a lot of men are preaching in these reviews, like, don't take your girls to see it. They're just going to hate men at the end of the movie. I didn't feel that way. I actually thought that
Not true. Not true.
yeah, I thought that they both acknowledged that it can't just be all women and it can't just be all men. We have to literally come together, and we're not going to come together until we start identifying as who we are and taking ownership in what we bring to the table without putting the other one down. You know, like
I
Barbie
guess I
can
felt like that was like a little sprinkle they sprinkled in there to
like it
make
wasn't
it full
enough.
circle. Yeah, and I was like,
Mm.
oh, okay, like it was like enough to be safe. We'll sprinkle this little thing in there. Which also, just aside from that, like I thought that end scene with his speech, I was like, this is so ridiculous. Like it got to the point where I was like, can we make this stop, please?
Yeah. Oh, how did you feel about Ken entering the real world and realizing that was so jarring, right? That when
Mhm.
Barbie and Ken have to go figure out why Barbie starts becoming more and more human-like, she's getting thoughts of death. Her feet no longer are in the heels, they go down. So it's like, oh no, something is messing with them. So they have to find the little girl who's playing with her in a way that's affecting Barbie's emotions. So Ken and Barbie obviously enter the real world. How did you feel when Barbie and Ken, I immediately, my like stomach dropped when Barbie started being hit on and Barbie goes to that construction site and goes, let's go get some powerful female energy, because in her world, it was the women doing the construction, right?
Yeah.
And then she was just getting hit on, and kind of everywhere you turn, the real world was being run by men. I'd be curious, like, what were your thoughts when they started entering the real world?
That's a good question. Again, going into this movie, I guess I was hoping, I say I had low expectations, which I did, but I guess I was hoping that it would have more real world challenges,
Mm.
like day-to-day stuff, going to work, traffic, all
Mm.
this stuff. Again, I was like, why do we have to push just the whole male thing? Like what it was like
Mm.
immediately it went to them on the beach roller skating, and instead of making it something funny like them actually trying to walk through real sand or swim and her hair getting messed up or something, making it cute, it immediately went to the sexist approach
Yeah.
of Barbie was being objectified, which it did hit for me because I'm like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. It happens, and all the feelings she was describing happens. But again, I was kind of like, I wanted this to be more like a fun, goofy, lighthearted movie. And again, we're making this about how women are objectified and women are put down and women are sexualized. And it's like, as a woman, that happens to me enough. I don't want to really see a movie that's supposed to be about a Barbie doll and it be about that. Like I want to see her like I don't know, going in the ocean, and instead of coming out and her hair's perfect, it's like matted with seaweed in it. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And like her tripping and getting a bruise on her knee. And like,
Yeah.
kind of how they introduced at the beginning of the film, like, oh, you're becoming more human, your feet are flat and stuff. And instead of focusing more on that, to me, I felt like it was that scene on the beach. She punched a guy in the face and then it kind of jumped ship. So that's all I was able to kind of focus on of their experience in the real world was, oh, Barbie entered the real world and she was objectified by men.
Mm.
And not like, oh, she was late to work or her coffee got burnt or she spilled her coffee on her or she had a bad hair day, and it to me, I felt like they just could have been a lot more creative with that and focus
Mm.
less on women being objectified and sexualized by men.
Yeah. You bring up a point that's, why do we have to keep talking about this? And from my perspective, I think we have to keep talking about it until real change starts to happen, until we do see, a female in office, until we do have more of a balance, until women can walk down the street and not be objectified by men. Like, I'm just thinking of a
Mhm,
woman. We both have lived in Los Angeles for over 10 years, in that outfit, going down the paths in Santa Monica
mhm.
in that outfit, Aubrey. I could 100% see guys going, "Woo, woo," like immediately.
I mean, I modeled literally, I would
Yeah,
be
that's
in
what I'm
like
saying.
window storefronts or on the beach in like
Mhm.
next to nothing. And guys are like with their phones taking pictures. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I don't like it. and it's hard for me with this situation because I feel like people are going to hear what I'm saying. They're going to be like, I don't know. They're going to put me in a box, and they're going to put other women who are like me in a box, where I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about this. I'm not
Yeah.
saying to brush it under the rug.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to ignore it and this is just how it is. Yeah, fight for change. Stick up for yourself. You know, if a guy is catcalling you, like, I mean, I could go on so many tangents right now,
Sure.
but at the same time, I guess for me is I'm realizing, like, I think we get so focused on the problems that we don't stop to really think about the accomplishments we have made. And so we're like, well,
Mm.
we got to keep going and going and going and going. And it's like, well, where's the bar? Like, where's the realistic bar? Because is there ever going to be a day where there's no more creeps? There's no more misogyny? No. Like, there's not. We can make it better. We can educate men. We can, you know, try to build a union and community within our community, which then hopefully can inspire other small groups, and it can be a ripple effect. But I think I'm trying to find that balance of, like, yeah, I'm all about, like, striving for making things better in every area, but also, like, where's the bar? And can we sit for a minute instead of just gripe and acknowledge, like, how far we have come? Like, you know, like, for example, I've asked for raises at work, and I've had talks with women where I'm like, it made
This is good.
people feel uncomfortable when I asked for a raise. And it was women who actually gave me a hard time about it. And I was like, oh, this is really weird. Like, I was not expecting this from female coworkers.
Yeah.
And then I looked at them and I was like, listen, do you realize the reason why men get more raises than women nowadays is because they ask for them? And I go, I'm just asking for this. I'm not,
I love this.
I was like, I'm not expecting this. So you can say no, but this is part of the problem, is like, I'm doing what men have done and I'm asking it, and I'm actually getting backlash from women. So it's not always men. And I think part of that is also, I realize, like, not necessarily those women, but women who respond in that way. It's like, in that situation, I felt, instead of it being about men, I was like, oh, we need to also encourage other women to feel more empowered. It's not us just, like, conquering men. It's other women who are feeling empowered and confident enough, and going to other women and saying, hey, it's okay to do this. It's okay to ask for a raise. Like, you don't, you know, like, you can ask for a raise. Like, if you're upset because you haven't got one, like, well, go ask. Like, well,
I love that. What a great point. I think, going back to the beginning of the movie, even those simple, you know, quotes from the beginning of, you deserve that because you worked hard, or you could do that. You have confidence. What are you talking about? You're insecure. Things like that. That really hit me and probably lasted with me more so than anything else, of how empowered Barbie was and how unafraid she was. I will say too, I was weirdly empowered by Ken, ironically, when Ken, this sounds terrible, but he's going into the real world and he's like, oh, I can do anything. And then Ken just enters the Barbie world, or I'm sorry, Ken enters the real world and goes, hello, I'd like to be a doctor. I'm just gonna do one surgery, no big deal. And I think about men that I've been around, or that I've worked with, or that are in my family. I'm like, man, they're just so unafraid. And I think you make such a great point that not only men have to work with women on becoming that way, but women who are already that way, who are already in positions of power, they need to empower women to start viewing themselves as, it's okay. Like, we're always just afraid. And I can't speak on behalf of every woman, and please, guys, don't bash me or Aubrey in the comments, but we do want to hear your views on this. And I'm not afraid, because we're being respectful right now, and we're really listening to each other, which I think is where we need to go. And I love that your focus, Aubrey, is on solutions, because I think that's so important. I'm so inspired by you. I should have said this from the beginning, but Aubrey runs her own business. And it's kind of cool. Like, being two women from different perspectives and both who are a little kind of badass entrepreneurs. I want to now kind of touch on the America Ferrera character, and I think most people could probably relate to her the most because she is the character that was playing with Barbie as a kid and then brought Barbie out as an adult, and that's kind of what triggered Barbie to start having these weird emotions and bringing her back into the real world. America Ferrera is she a working mom? I know she's a mom. Yes, she is a working mom.
Yes.
Obviously, she works at Mattel, excuse me. She works at Mattel, but I think like you could just get her thoughts and feelings. She's just like beat down. Like she just like worn out, beat down. She has a really empowered speech. And I was like almost to tears in this speech. So much
I did
so.
love that.
Yeah, I'm going to read some of it. Not all of it because I want you guys to go see the movie. So much so that I started clapping.
Oh my gosh, you're not. I would have been like, stop it.
No. Right at the end, everyone started clapping. It was amazing. All right, here's some of what she says. She goes, "It is literally impossible to be a woman. You have to be thin, but not too thin. You can never say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy, but you also have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to be a lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You're supposed to love being a mother, but don't talk about your kids all the damn time." And then there's more. It goes on and on and on, and it is, I mean, I think she should win an Oscar for that speech. How did you feel about her character and just her take on things?
So I liked her character, and I know we're going to talk more about this later. It was when I watch a film, I want to be engrossed in it. I want to feel like I'm there, and I felt like they just threw you in the middle of her story, and I was kind of like, I don't know. There was no background. There's no build up. They made it about the little girl, then all of a sudden it was like a 180, and they're like, oh, it's actually the mom, but there's no telling why she's feeling this way, what her day-to-day life was. So there was, for me, a disconnect. But for her character in general, like I really like her. I remember her in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And I did really like that speech because, making this, I just want to preface this, nothing to do with men right now, but just in general, the pressure on women. And I know you and me, like, just for you guys audience, like Ashley, I tell people here all the time, I talk about you all the time here. I'm like, my friend Ashley is just like one of the most badass people I've ever met. I was like, she's such a hard worker, but she's humble and she's kind. And I was like, she literally is like my number one hype woman. Like, she will sit me down, but we're close enough to where if you get like too intense for me, I'm like, hey, like bring it down a notch. Like, I can't handle that right now.
Bring it down.
But we've both worked in the industry. We've both experienced these things. And me, like, as a model, that, like, I've been told, I was in breach of my contract because I gained an inch around my waist. I've been told I'm needed a nose job. I even here living, here and even in LA, I'd have other women coming up to me and like being like, well, do you need to eat? You need to eat a hamburger. Like you're not healthy. And I would kind of just be like, yeah, I do eat, I have a fast metabolism, blah, blah, blah. But then it got to the point I was like, I'm going to start telling these women, maybe you should eat a salad. And so it was like I was relating to what she was saying. And it did really, like, that was probably the only scene in the film where I felt like really in touch with the character because everything she was saying was so true. Like, there's so much pressure on women, just from society in general. And
yes,
it is so true. It's like, you can't be too thin, you can't be overweight, you can't be, I've even been told, like, from family members, like, be a lady, be quiet, be
yeah. I mean, we both come from like the church community as well, and I think we can both relate that the more, I'm not trying to put anyone down, but the more quiet, kind of like mousy, not as loud and expressive women, I mean, they married off real quickly. And I remember that was really hard for us because we're like, why don't guys like us? Like, we're
even
bold.
now in dating, I'll tell stories and other women are like, you said that? And then immediately it's like, telling this story, I was feeling empowered, but because of a woman's response being like, oh, you said that, I was like, I immediately retreat and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that was too forward. Maybe I was too
Yeah.
loud. Maybe it was too this. Maybe blah, 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 blah. So her whole speech I did love and I related to, and the pressure is real and it's hard to dissect. Also, just how women's brains work. It's like a ball of live wire. So it's like just on all the time. And
Yeah.
I really did like her character. I really didn't feel a connection with her character. I felt she was just kind of like
There to serve
yeah,
that
like
opinion.
just there to serve that opinion, and it kind of, the rest of the film, it took away from what I thought the story was going to be about, was like Barbie's relationship with her and Barbie's relationship with women in general, and how they grow out of being a little girl with confidence and imagination, like the movie I Feel Pretty, where Amy Schumer gives that speech at the end where she's like, why don't we let our guts stick out, why don't we do this, and
Right.
instead it kind of segued. And so I really liked her and I love that speech, but there was a big character disconnect for me.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
No, it's a really good point. I also am obsessed with the movie I Feel Pretty. I thought that was just done so well, and also was like,
I love that movie.
like I can watch that right now. By the way, guys, if you like hearing from us and dissecting the film and just giving our honest perspective, I would love to continue doing this with Aubrey in the future, and doing like a movie night with Ash and Aub, where we wear pajamas, eat popcorn, and dissect a movie like once a month.
Yes.
So please, doesn't that sound so fun? Please let me know in the comments below if that would be something you'd be interested in. And maybe we could also like do it live or something so people can chime in their comments as well. I want to dive now into the artistry of the film itself. Let's kind of give a broader picture. We talked about the big concepts of the cultural phenomenon and the discussions about women and how they see themselves and how the world sees us and men and that relationship. But the overall artistry, Aubrey, what do you think?
So what I've been telling people in like a nutshell, I even said this to the group of girls that I left the movie with, I felt there was not enough character development. There wasn't enough backstory. I don't need a 3-hour long movie about Barbie, but even Toy Story, like I felt more connected to Andy than I did to America's character. So I felt there was like very little character development. I felt there were way too many different, I guess, plots within the film. I told one of my friends who I was sitting next to, I was like, did you feel like you went and seen one movie and you left seeing another? And she's like, yes, exactly. And I hate that. And then I also feel that it was kind of choppy, and I noticed this, and I hate that I noticed this.
Oh no.
But within like the first, I think it was the part where they went into the real world and they were in like the cowgirl outfit scene. Immediately, like, I don't know if it was the way it was shot or how fast it happened, but I thought, oh, they put all the good scenes in the trailer, and this is going to be one of those movies for me where the trailer is better than the movie.
And with that being said, because this was a big surprise that we got to see Ryan Gosling kind of perform like Grease Lightning style songs and musicals. What did you think about that?
So it's so funny you say that, because at that part in the movie, also we'd had a little like drinks before then, so I was probably laughing.
As you should. As I go like this. This is coffee, guys.
Yeah, coffee. I'm Barbie.
Bailey. Hi, Barbie.
No, it really is coffee. I'm not gonna spill it.
So much fun. By the way.
I know when that scene happened, like at first I was like, okay, this is goofy, and then it like kept going and going and going, and I was like, I remember sitting up in my chair and I look over, and my coworker, she was like, and I look at her and I go, okay, good, I'm glad I'm not the only one. She's like, what is going on? And in my head I go, are they trying to make this like a Grease thing? Like I don't understand what's going on here. Like to be honest, like I was kind of confused by all of that. Like it didn't really make sense to me why all that was happening. Again, it felt kind of like, we're gonna put this in here because it looks flashy. But I was like, what? Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, now it's time for movie quotes and how we feel about them. All right, So I'm gonna say a quote and just your initial reaction. I would never wear heels if my feet were shaped like this.
So the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah.
So as a TV reporter, I wear things like this. And full disclosure, I'm in sweatpants underneath this. And I wear tennis shoes every single day. I'm like, yeah, agreed.
I love heels. I love heels. I've been wearing them since I was like 4. But the older I get, I wore heels almost every day in high school, which is absurd. Like, and now
Oh,
I'm like,
same.
what? How did I do
Why,
that?
Ashley? Humans only have one ending. Ideas live forever.
Well, because of my beliefs, I don't believe we just die and it's nothing. My initial instinct was like, that's depressing because I'm just telling you, this is
Yeah.
like instant instinct.
Yes.
I get what they were saying, like
Mm.
dreams and, history keeps going on. But
Yeah.
as an individual standpoint, it's like, oh, okay. So like when I die, which is initially what it was talking about, like that's it.
Yeah, that's a good point because, as Christians, we don't think that that's just it, right?
Yeah.
And I also just think like part of that legacy that we talk about of passing on to the next generation, that is powerful. Your spirit's kind of like in the next generation. So,
Yeah.
how about this one? I want to be part of the people that make meaning, not the thing that is made.
Yeah, that one, it kind of like when she said it, I was like, okay.
When she said it, I actually thought the ending, I really thought she was going to go work at Mattel. And I was
I kind of did
really
too.
excited about
I
that.
kind of did too. Like
Yeah.
I because of us and how we are, being business women and, going,
Yeah.
we even had this talk the other day where when you make it more about the money and the outcome,
Mhm.
you lose the joy and you lose the sense of why you're doing this. And
Mhm.
I thought because of Barbie's like enlightenment, she
Yes.
was going to go and work for Mattel and make more Barbies and make different Barbies to
Yes.
inspire women and
Yeah.
men, and maybe make a family Ken Barbie, to kind of also
Yeah.
bring that in. And then when it
Yeah, like a
ended,
stay-at-home dad, that would be really fun.
yeah, when it ended with her, like, spoiler, going to the gynecologist, I was like, what?
Let's end on this one. We are both, disclosure, not mothers. So I know this hit mothers very differently. But this one says, "We mothers stand still so our daughters can look back to see how far they've come." What do you think about that one, Aubrey?
I'd have to really like dissect that more to really get a better grasp on it, because I feel like it's there's a lot there.
Yeah.
But I felt like, again, it was one of those where it's like it's meant to sound inspiring, but it's kind of like a diss. And I say that too because, like,
Yeah.
there was that funny scene where they kept showing pregnant Barbie and they're like, oh, we thought we discontinued you, which was funny. But at the same time, it was one of those two where I'm like, why? Because you and I have talked about this. Why can't Barbie or a woman be a career woman and a mom? I know women in LA who are, to me, I'm like, you are a badass woman because you're a good mom.
Yes.
You're present with your kids.
Yes.
You have a family. You want to
Preach,
have
Aubrey, preach.
you want to have a family, but you also want to have a life of your own, and you
Yes.
want to create and you want to build something, and you don't want to just be mom who revolves around a family. But the fact that you can do both of those, and it's going to be chaotic regardless of what you choose, regardless if you choose to just be a mom or just be a businesswoman or do all of that, it's going to be chaotic and it's not going to be perfect. And I think that to me was kind of like, oh, that's a little depressing. Like if someone wants to be a mom, it's kind of like, well, you're just going to be the mom who does all the hard work and you're going to sit back and watch everyone else have a good time. And it's like,
Yeah.
you can have a good time.
I completely agree. I think that for some mothers, it hit them in a way that was like, yes, like I'm passing the baton on to my daughter. But I would also hope, because I really always wanted this, my mom always had so many jobs. She actually bought her house at 18 and my dad redesigned it and they called it the Barbie house because it was a pink house. That's actually really cute. I just realized that. But she always had a lot of jobs and became a stay-at-home mom for several years. But I always felt like I always wanted to be a career woman, and if I ever had a daughter, I whether you're a career woman or you're a stay-at-home mom or you do both or whatever, I just freaking respect you. Like, you're amazing. That is a massive full-time job in and of itself, but there's no reason for you to ever feel like you need to stand still. Like, why do we have to
Yeah.
stand still for someone to keep moving? How about we keep moving so we keep inspiring our young
Yeah.
daughters to keep moving as well? And I say keep moving, I don't mean that you have to build a business. I see stay-at-home moms who keep moving. We've come to our conclusion. So I want to know your overall thoughts, your overall summary in 2 sentences. 2 sentences, Cook. And who you think should see this movie, shouldn't see this movie, and who it was made for.
I think everyone can see it. I wouldn't go to the theaters. I'd wait till Netflix or rent it, to be honest.
And see, guys, my perspective is everyone should see this movie. Bring the whole family. I want to see it again. I want to bring Alan because I'm really, really curious to hear his thoughts. So it's just so interesting. But I think that's what great movies do. And I'm calling it a great movie because that's how I feel about it. But it's sparking debate. And I love that. It's sparking conversation. But what I hope truly, and I think you do too, is that everyone's just kind about the debate and has real conversations. And I think why I wanted to do this kind of Ash and Ob movie review is because I was just seeing so many people bashing the movie, and to me, not getting to that final ending. Because to me, this is not a just man-hating movie. That you missed the whole point. To me, you missed the whole point.
Well,
Go
it's funny.
rewatch it and take a woman with you.
When I said I hated it, which I did, which again, I feel feelings really intensely. It had nothing to do with the whole like men, woman, Ken, Barbie
Yeah.
thing. It was more just like, it was so choppy. There was no character development. I was looking at solely from like an artist perspective, and I was like, what? Even me, I was like, I'm like, her clothes were cool, but like they could have made them a lot better. Like
Aubrey is a hypercritic, and that is why we have her on. I was just about to say on our podcast. I don't have a podcast. But Aubrey, overall, who do you think this movie is made for?
I wouldn't say young girls.
Mm-hmm.
Can they see it? Yeah. If I were to take like a younger girl to see it, I'd hope that she would get more of the fun aspect out of it. But
Yeah.
to be honest, it was a little too
Adult themed, maybe?
adult themed, and
Yeah.
not in like a raunchy type of way, but like adult themed in the whole, growing up and, what can men do? What can women do? What's Barbie's role, and her even coming out of that, being a Barbie and entering almost like adulthood. It's like she had that transition of Barbie kind of had that transition of like from being a kid to being an adult. And I think nowadays, like, kids grow up way too fast. We're pushing way too much on them, and we're not allowing them to have a childhood that they will literally never get back.
That is such a good point. There are so many adult themes in this movie that, in my perspective as well, Aubrey, if you're going to bring a kid to it, maybe as an adult, go with them. There are some adult moments and adult, wink winks. And my friend Jen also brought that up. She's like, some lines in there I felt like did not need to be there to make an adult joke that could be a little jarring for a kid, or maybe, go past their heads. But yeah, I think especially if you're a millennial or a boomer, whatever you classify in, but you grew up playing with Barbies and you're of an age where you can dissect a movie and like come out of it and like be okay, then go see it.
I'm gonna go cry now.
But if you're a kid, maybe just make sure you're taking your daughter. If you guys
I'm not
are
saying that it can't have
that.
stuff like that in it.
Sure.
I'm not saying this needed to be a movie
Of
for
course,
kids.
but you wanted it. It seems like you wanted it. Someone brought this up in a review, almost more like Enchanted with
like playful,
Amy
like what I'm saying,
Adams.
like Barbie being at the beach and her hair getting dirty, all that stuff. So
I loved it. Now I want to go watch what's it called? The Pink, I Think Pink or Think Pink. What is that movie with I feel pretty. Oh my goodness. I'm wearing too much pink. All right, guys. Well, we really appreciate you taking the
Yes.
time to listen to the Great Barbie Debate. Guys, go ahead and follow Aubrey on Instagram at AUBREY'S Cook. And also her vintage store is called Lost Hollywood Vintage. And what's really, really cool, I'm already like scoping out her pieces, is she can ship you pieces all throughout the world. So you can go support Aubrey, go support her journey. And let me know in the comments below if you want to see more movie reviews with two very opinionated females who can be on very opposite sides of the spectrum. Let me know what you think our next movie should be. Hit that subscribe button and the bell so you never miss a video. We love you guys so much. Aubrey, thank you.
Gosh, I love this. Love
Show
you.
me life, show me love. Make a change,